back and watched that post, and the post was talking about the Unlocking Greatness community and why we focus heavily on spiritual growth, personal development, as well as entrepreneurship. And actually, we have our next live session today at 12 o'clock in less than 30 minutes. So I probably only have not even 15 minutes or so to talk to you all because we have a guest speaker. But let me explain to you all what happens when you try to do one without the other. So, the reason why we focus so heavily in the Unlocking Greatness community on all three areas, and I'm referring to spiritual growth, personal growth, as well as entrepreneurship, I don't think you can have one without the other. I really don't. I think it's extremely, let me rephrase it in a different way. I think it is extremely difficult to, for example, let's say your focus is just primarily entrepreneurship, which we focus heavily in entrepreneurship inside of the Unlocking Greatness community. And I know you all are not used to hearing me talk about entrepreneurship because typically when I go live, I spend the majority of my time. Hi, everybody. You all can comment if you can hear me. Just say, yes, I'm here. I can hear you. But typically when I go live inside of on any of my platforms, I really keep the majority of my focus really just talking about the Word of God and just trying to encourage you all in the Spirit. The pieces you all don't get to see, you don't get to see the portions we focus on in the Unlocking Greatness community on the entrepreneur section. And that's why I think it's always surprising when members join, especially those who are entrepreneurs or they have a vision that God is giving. In fact, let me ask you all this question. How many of you have a vision or a goal that God has given you? And you've either tried to get it off the ground and get it up and going, or maybe you did get it up and going, but it didn't quite pan out the way you hoped, or maybe you started it and then you stopped, and then you started it and then you stopped. You all let me know. Samira says, I can hear you. Okay, wonderful. Let me know. First of all, let me know, Samira, if you can hear me. Linda, hopefully you can hear me. But how many of you all have a vision or goal? You know that there is a higher calling in your life. Like you don't even need any convincing with it. And it can be something as simple as God has called you to speak to other women. God has called you to, I don't know, you can visualize and see yourself on a stage speaking to hundreds or if not thousands and thousands of people. Or maybe as God has given you the vision of writing this book and you've been trying to write it, but you never finished it or you don't even know where to begin with it. Or maybe God has given you a vision of having a podcast or a vision of launching your own products and services. Many people don't know I'm heavily involved in product launches and trademarking your own products and things. And again, these are things I typically don't talk about. I know this is not a normal life that you all are used to, but I'm trying to get you all to see that many times we may have that vision or that goal, but if you do not have all three elements lined up, and I'm talking to you all firsthand, listen to me carefully because I've made so many mistakes. If you do not focus on spiritual growth, personal growth, as well as entrepreneurship growth, it is extremely difficult to stay on track and to bring that vision that God has given you to a reality. Does that make sense to anyone? Let me pause there for a second because I only have about another 9 minutes or so to talk to you guys and I got to go. Does that make sense what I'm saying? It's very difficult to have one without the other. So let's say your focus is just spiritual growth, which is wonderful. You all know firsthand, if you've been following my podcast, if you've seen me live online, if you've read my book, Necessary, right? If you've had anything to do with me, anyone that knows anything about me should be able to know that Z stands for God first and foremost in her life. So spiritual growth is extremely important. But do you want to know what happens when you focus on spiritual growth primarily, right? And then you don't focus on personal development? Can anyone explain to me what happens when the focus is primarily on spiritual growth only, which is a really good thing? That's for all of you out there that are prayer warriors, right? You're praying all the time, right? And you know your scriptures just as well as I do, right? And you can quote a passage in a moment. What happens? Can someone answer this really quickly? What happens when you focus on the spiritual growth and development primarily? Which is nothing wrong with that. Spiritual is important. But then you don't put the focus on the personal growth or the personal development. That's when you're talking about mindset and all those other things. Can anyone explain to me what happens when you focus on the one and not the other? Any Lizzie said that there's a disconnection. Anything else? What else happens when you just focus on the one and not the other? You don't connect to the material world. You can't grow in this way. What else? What else happens? I'll give one more answer to come on through. Hi, Tam. I see you in here. What happens when you focus on that? One more answer. For those who are just joining, I have about 8 minutes or so left that I can talk to you all because my next live workshop starts in just a little bit for members in the Unlocking Greatness community. And I put a post up earlier today explaining why in the Unlocking Greatness community we focus heavily on spiritual growth. We focus heavily on personal development. That's extremely important. In fact, I spend at least half of the time inside of our community on personal development, to be honest with you. And then we focus heavily on entrepreneurship, which is something that you all are not used to me talking about as much, but that's a huge part of our focus as well. And I'm trying to explain to you all why is it important that you have to have all three. So the question that I was just asking is, what happens when you just focus on one aspect of that? So, for example, the focus is just on the spiritual growth, but you don't really give much attention to the personal growth, the mindset, and all of that kind of stuff. And you definitely don't give much attention to the entrepreneurship, that whole vision and that dream part that God has given you. So, what happens when you focus on just the one? I see Lynn say, go ahead and tell me about it. So, let me go ahead and just answer that. Thank you, Lizzie. Lizzie, you just hit on it. Lizzie said you lack depth. One of the reasons why I believe we have Romans 12:2 inside of the Bible, which I love, Romans 12:2, that teaches us be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When you focus on just the spiritual aspect, and I know that that's the majority of a lot of us, right? If you're anything like me, I get up in the morning, I'm reading my Bible, I'm praying, I go to bed praying, reading my Bible. I do my best. I'm not perfect at this, but I do my best to take a day out of the week. I call it my Sabbath day, where it's just me and God. Do all of that. But you want to know what happens when that personal development piece is not in place? When I am not disciplined, when I have not learned how to focus, when I have not learned how to get rid of all these doggone distractions in my life, when I have self-limiting beliefs, when I have doubts, when I'm not sure if God called me to do this, when you get my point, when opposition comes my way, when there's resistance, yeah, you can get in your scriptures and read a whole lot about it, but you can read your scriptures and pray all doggone day if you don't be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Are you all picking up what I'm laying down? Someone just said you will have no structure. Exactly. If you don't be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? And you don't get that extra help that you need to even know what that even looks like. Like today, we're having a session. We have an amazing guest speaker that's speaking today inside Unlocking Greatness. I just can't wait for you all to meet her. Aji speaking today, and today's session is all on letting go. And she's literally teaching, and I'm just so excited that she's going to be teaching, which is part of why I'm going live now, to let people know who are already members, is she's teaching that, yeah, we get into the Word of God and we love God and we pray and all of that, but what about regulating our bodies, like our nervous system? Like if we're so stressed and anxious about everything, how in the world do we even calm ourselves down? Like, how do we calm down even the nervous system so that we can even be present and even feel what God is trying to reveal to us so that we can then show up in our lives and move in that direction? Does that make sense, you all? So that's why when you see, and I'm so glad she's speaking today because I think it's extremely important. This is why inside of the Unlocking Greatness community, we focus on the spiritual growth. It's very important that you be grounded. That's where your foundation comes from. Does that make sense, you all? Let me know if this is making sense to you. It's very important. Very. But we focus on the personal development. This is when you got to get your butt in line. This is when you got to stop scrolling on social media half the day. And I don't mean that as any disrespect, but this is when you've got to have your routines in place. This is when that mindset has got to get right. This is when you've got to learn about paradigms and all these different habits and things and the operating system you're operating from and all of those loops that you keep going through in your mind, playing those old tapes or focus on the past. And how do you even begin to calm that nervous system down, which as I said before, we have a guest speaker speaking on that today. In less than 20 minutes, she's going to be getting started. But anyway, how do you even calm that down? So that's why the spiritual development is very important. The personal growth, that's the piece we miss out on, is very important. And I know there are a lot of people that pursue personal growth and personal development, but guess what? Then they leave the spiritual part out because they think that part's not that important. So same thing with personal development. You can't sit in that all day looking up every video in the world, or watching every coach in the world that's talking about mindset and nervous systems and this and that, right? But then not be grounded and not be spiritually aligned and not even know what patterns you're following even in the Bible. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to get to the third one really quickly because I've got to get off of this call in about 4 minutes. So in the Unlocking Greatness community, we focus on spiritual growth, we focus on personal growth, personal development, and we focus on entrepreneurship. So let me end by talking about entrepreneurship. You all don't hear me talking a lot about it because I don't know, and I'm repenting of that. I've said this before, and I sincerely, right now in front of you all, am openly repenting because I've really been downplaying the entrepreneurship because a part of me is just like, oh my goodness, it's so easy to get online and talk about money, but what about God? But what people don't know and don't see even in me is all of the businesses and things that God has blessed me to be in for almost 30 years, from writing, a book, to doing a podcast, to having an agency, to having an online store, to manufacturing products, to having a podcast, to doing a number of things you all just don't know about, to be quite honest with you, because I do not get online talking about that stuff. I just don't. Sometimes I do tiny bit here and there, but not a lot at all. However, and this is a big however, I've noticed that at least half, if not three-fourths, of the members that are coming into the Unlocking Greatness community, and especially the ones that are showing up on a regular basis for the live workshop, it dawned on me the other day, my goodness, the majority of these people are the entrepreneurs. They're the ones, they love God. They're trying their best to focus and take care of themselves and not be the hero to everybody and give themselves permission to work on them. Right, which, by the way, it takes about an hour out of your week every week to go through our live workshops, about an hour or two. And they want to bring the vision that God gave them to life. And many of them name something. They're developing products. They're running online stores. They're coaches. We have a lot of coaches in there. They're just name something. They're podcasters. We have a number of people in there. What I have not been paying most of my attention to is the vast majority of them, and we just had an end of the year meeting, 2025 end of the year meeting, we had a talk. And it dawned on me, they said, Z, and I'm paraphrasing how they said it. They said, Z, we know you talk a lot about spiritual growth when you're out there. We know you do, and we love that. And personal development. And one of the members said, Z, please don't leave entrepreneurship out. One of them said, Z, that's what brought me to your platform, because you're one of few, by the grace of God, that offers all three, because you have such a vast amount of experience in all three areas. Please don't leave that part out, because I lead so much with the spiritual and the person. They're like, please don't. And I'm like, you know what, that's true. I don't talk a whole lot about it, but the member, and this is not boasting, this is what the members have said. You can go to my site and watch the testimonies, listen directly from their own mouths. They've said, Z, I've been in almost every business program known to mankind. Some of them have said, Z, I've spent tens of thousands. I've spent so much on these coaches. And this is not putting down any program, but I'm just telling you what they've said. And they said, but yet I've come in here and you don't even understand how God has tremendously turned things around and blessed my business, or blessed me to get in the right flow, or given me the insight I need, or, now I have my podcast, or I have my program up and going. One lady said I had been working for years to get my business off the ground, and I didn't realize I was holding myself back, but just by being in this environment, she says, everything has changed, Z. Does that make sense, you all? And she said, hang on one second, I can't invite anybody in here. And so she said to me the other day, one of the members, she said, Z, please don't leave out entrepreneurship. And one of the other members said to me, I don't even know why I'm getting teared up about this. She said, Z, you don't need to be out there letting the world know just a piece of you, because we know you love God and you talk so much about God. She said, but it's all of you. It's all of it that God has done in your life that attracts and has brought us in here. And you don't really talk about the other things. So I'm openly repenting before everyone. And I'm going to bring more of that to the table so you all understand all three are needed. And that's what the Unlocking Greatness community is all about. And I say this to say, I got to wrap this up now. By God's grace only, it's not me, it's God's grace. The people that have joined, they've said to me, Z, I didn't even know that it was like this. Like, I just thought, I just didn't know we actually, especially for the business owners, we actually would be going into my website and evaluating my site and evaluating my funnels and helping me get my podcast up and showing me how to get this book off the ground and, showing me how to launch my product and spending time going with helping me find a vendor. And like, they're just like, I didn't even know this was even in the atmosphere. I thought it was just going to be all this because you don't really talk about those things. So I wanted to say to you all, and I got to close this out because I got to go talk to our guest speaker who's about to come in. For those of you who have been praying and looking for the right environment to get into so that you can grow spiritually, grow personally, and whether you feel you're ready for entrepreneurship or not, and let me speak on that before I end this. About half of you, just from the numbers I know, may not be interested in any level of entrepreneurship, but you want to know what happens? When members come in the Unlocking Greatness community and they begin to grow spiritually, which is extremely important for me, for the members, and then they begin to grow in their mindset and unlearn all of these wrong beliefs and really see who they are in the spirit before God and begin to get the truth. We walk through these processes of how do you go at getting the truth so that you're not stuck in this cycle of believing a lie. Guess what happens when those two things get cleared up? Y'all want to know what happens? Even the ones that are not entrepreneurs or didn't even have a thought about writing a book or, I don't know, starting a nonprofit or creating a coaching program or private labeling a product, or whatever. Even the ones who didn't have any entrepreneurial inkling whatsoever, it's almost as if they discover and come to the realization that they were meant to produce something, to get something out there, a piece of them out there to the world, even if it was a nonprofit, just whatever. And all of a sudden, then they want to start attending the entrepreneur sessions. And so I noticed, I said, and I've been in a lot of prayer lately, which is why you all haven't seen me be live in quite a bit. I went live yesterday, but prior to that, you haven't seen me doing lives in a while. I had to go all the way back to the source, all the way back to, okay, God, now I'm seeing the whole picture. You can't have one without the other. You need spiritual growth. You need personal development and entrepreneurship. It all works together. And that's what the Unlocking Greatness community is all about. So for those of you who've been looking, who are looking to get in the right environment, who are looking to grow, someone says, I've been trying, yes. And especially for those of you who've been trying to do this on your own, you can only get so far scrolling on social media and watching all of these coaches and mentors and doing all of that. That's not bad. That's not bad. You can go to YouTube and watch all kind of things, right? You can only get so far without being in an environment where you can get that. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like a fire that happens when we have our sessions. Anyone that's joined, you already know what I'm talking about. But it's different when you're in the environment and you're in a meeting with all of these amazing people from around the world, and we're all coming together and learning, and then we get to talk to each other and we get to concentrate on you if you want to be in what we call the hot seat, and we get to help you figure out what you want to do and how to go about doing it. There's a young lady that just joined yesterday. In fact, I can't wait to talk to her today. She's getting her candle business off the ground. And I did an exercise with her. I don't want to go into details. I really need to close out this live like right now. But imagine meeting somebody for the first time, because she was considering joining. She wasn't quite sure. And I walked through this little exercise with her. And even before the exercise was over, it was as if her eyes opened up and she said, oh my gosh, see. She says, I've always wanted my candle business. And you can just see a whole different part of her. And then she started talking about how she loves the scents and the smells and how she just see herself, and she went through the details of what she saw. By the time we ended that conversation, she literally had already pivoted and become a different person. And she's going to be in our live session today. I don't want to use the word guarantee, because you shouldn't do that. But I said to her, not only am I going to be her very first customer, which I'm looking forward to, I really do believe God is going to blow up her business in such a way that she's going to be surprised. You all should see how talented this woman is. But see, when you're not in the right community or the right environment, and this is not about trying to get someone to get, I'm trying to get you all to see that I believe in that scripture that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. We need each other. And by ourselves, and I know this firsthand for me, you all, I run in circles. I'm all over the place. And I'm thinking about something. You all have done it where you start running with a project and doing something and you feel good about it. You know what I'm talking about. And then what happened 3 weeks later? Something happened and you're distracted and off on something else, right? That's why we have a section called Hold Me Accountable inside of the community, so we can be held accountable for your goals. So anyway, I love you all. For those of you all who are looking for a good environment, someone says, do you do coaching? Yes, that's what I'm talking about now. I absolutely do coaching. I lead the majority of the sessions inside the community. And there are some members, a few, who wants the individual coaching. I don't do a tremendous amount of that, and I don't make announcements about that. But if you're in that category where you're like, Z, yes, I want community, but I also want some one-on-one, you can have a time to set up some sessions. But anyway, I love you all. For those who are looking, who want to get in the right environment, I love you all. I invite you to make sure you get in there. Go to the Unlocking Greatness community. My site is unlockinggreatness.com. Our next session starts in literally 12 minutes, so I got to go because our guest speaker is probably already logging in. But it starts in about 12 minutes. So if you do decide to get in there today, please make sure you stay after the session is over so I can spend some time talking to you. Okay? Especially if you have a vision or a goal or a dream that you want to get off the ground for your business or something, especially that. Stay after the session. So once you go there and you sign up and you get into the sessions, and by the way, the link for the live Zoom that we're having today is already posted inside the community. It's already in there. So as soon as you go in there and register, go straight to the community. You're going to see the Zoom link in there. Just click on it and I'll be in the Zoom welcoming you and talking to you. We have an amazing guest speaker that's speaking today. She's going to be speaking on helping us to regulate that nervous system, calm ourselves down so that when we hear from God, we can make moves with speed and with clarity. So I'm really looking forward to her. She actually is a member inside of the Unlocking Greatness community, but she's a life coach and a transformation specialist. She is just brilliant in my book, and she agreed to do a session today for the community members, which I'm just blown away by. So she's going to be leading the live workshop session today. But anyway, if you do get in there today, and I challenge you all, take this message seriously. If you're looking to grow spiritually, personally, and especially if you also want to get your entrepreneurial dreams and goals off the ground, work on you and make a decision that let me just see what this is about. Normally when people come into one session, and it's only by God's grace, it's not me. And by the way, you get access to the retreat. We have an entire retreat that's based on my book. Normally, by God's grace only, because our feedback is extremely positive. When people come into just one session, they say, this is absolutely phenomenal. I did not think it would be like this. In fact, we had a mental health expert join a few weeks ago, and she said, these were her words. She said, this is just outstanding. Like, this is just amazing the way this is led and the way these sessions go. So I'm just grateful to God, and I give you all my word. I am doing my very best to be led by God, to keep this beautiful community going the way that it's going and to grow it all the more, and to make sure that not only I teach you all the things that I know, and I'm talking spiritual, personal, and in entrepreneurship, because there's many people in there that want to build a platform like mine, so they're learning from me how to do what I do and how I have everything set up on the back end. But if I don't know how to teach you something, I then bring experts in to do it. So we have AI specialists come in. We have mindset specialists come in. We have authors, a number of authors come in. So I reach out. I use the platform that God has given me. By God's grace, I'm in touch with a lot of people, even some famous people, believe it or not. But I use the platform that God gives me to invite and bring in people that can be speakers and that can help in the community. And I think that's what they really love about it, is that, oh my goodness, the quality of the guest speakers we get in. By God's grace, and it's only by his grace, after every session that I can think of, the members have said this has just been absolutely phenomenal. So we've had people that's been there since day one when I started this up, and they said, Z, we're not going anywhere. We love this. Anyway, I love you all. I hope this explains a little bit more about the Unlocking Greatness community. If you all have a question, you can put your question in really, really quickly, because I should have ended this live like 6 minutes ago, because we have a guest speaker, and hopefully my team member is on the Zoom with her now, welcoming her, because I'm running behind. But let me see if you have any questions. Someone says, before you go, you have beautiful hair. Thank you. My afro is actually kind of dry right now. I didn't do nothing to it this morning, so thank you. Any questions you all have, type it in there really, really quickly. But I'd love to meet you all. Again, if you are going to be joining today, come with an open heart. and just be ready to learn and to grow spiritually, personally, as well as in entrepreneurship. And if you do join today, go straight to the community. The Zoom link is already posted in the community. We put it in there this morning. So go straight to the community, enter into the Zoom, and I'm asking that you stay over after the Zoom is over for a little bit. So that I can talk to you and spend a little time with you if you join today, okay? So just go to unlockinggreatness.com. Everything is right there on the site, and you have to sign a waiver. The waiver just acknowledges you're over 18 and whatever, just a few things on the waiver. But once you sign that, you have immediate access into the community. I love you all. The session starts in like 7 minutes, and I should have been off of this live because I got to go and make sure our guest speaker's taken care of. But if you have any questions, very, very quickly type it in. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here. I love you all. I love you. I pray that you're encouraged. And remember, it is important that you have spiritual growth, personal spiritual growth, so that your foundation can be solid and you can walk in alignment with God. Personal development, so the mindset can be right. That's very important. Otherwise, you can pray all day, but good luck with that if the mindset, if you don't even believe what you're praying. And then entrepreneurship, so that you can bring that vision that God gave you to life. And that's what the Unlocking Greatness community that I lead by the grace of God is all about. It's all three. And I don't believe you can separate them. So I love you all. Be encouraged. Hope to see you in just a little bit. You can go to unlockinggreatness.com to sign up and join me in about 6 minutes on our live workshop. Love you all. I've got to run. Love you, love you, love you. I see some of you all in here I think are already members, so make sure you all sign into the platform because our guest speaker today, she has to have a hard stop at 1 because she's got another meeting to attend. So make sure you all log in and be ready to go. All right. Love you all. I got to run. Bye-bye.